What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Payne. Welcome back to another Omniheroes video. I apologize ahead of time for the white screen. I know it drives everybody crazy, but here we are. We're going to take a look at Catherine, Wheel of Destiny hero that's coming out as a Celestial for the Mystifiers. Now, real quick, while we're on the topic, if you guys have not seen the tier list, you guys can go ahead and take a look. I've talked about the best to worst, faction synergies, etc. Right? So, the worst synergy endgame, unfortunately, ends up being the Mystifiers, which is a big problem because I have a buddy who spent quite a bit of money. Shout out to C Wild, I love you, bro. And he wanted to do something different, and he went ahead and spent on getting an endgame Mystifiers team, and he totally regrets it now. So a lot of people who have used Mystifiers as their main team have kind of been sitting back, hoping they have a hero that comes out to save them. So Catherine is going to be that hero, hopefully. Being a royal, being a celestial, being a striker, and being a mystifier and a mage class, she may indeed bring a little bit more to what they need in order to make them back to a little bit more of an even playing ground with some of the other end game synergies, right? So let's talk about Catherine and what she is. So like I mentioned, her title is Wheel of Destiny. She is a mage, a mystifier. She has royals and celestials, which are two incredible faction synergies. And then she has the rune synergy of striker, which is also very, very good. Now let's talk about her skills. Lunisolar Disc. So Catherine manipulates the Wheel of Destiny, attacks enemies in the backline, dealing magic damage and applying corrode effects. So again, corrode is the main deal with these units, and the fact that she does backline damage and adds corrode is great. It would have been obviously better if she did AoE, but that's what her active is all about. Her active skill, Ring of Strike, or Ring Strike. Catherine summons the Ring of Faith to attack all enemies, dealing magic damage and applying corrode effect on enemies, so you get that extra effect there. And then lastly, her last two things are Void Shackle. When taking action, Catherine has a chance to apply Vital Drain to all enemies for 1 round. The healing received during the effect will be transferred to the buff caster, so she'll get her healing off of anyone who heals. So this is going to be really good against Avenger teams specifically because they're massive healing teams, and actually Glorians as well. Glorians also have a lot of healing as well. We'll do a tier list on them coming up soon, but this is going to help her survive, obviously, and also take away some of the healing responsibilities from somebody else and give herself a little bit more survivability. Being a mage, obviously, she's going to be a little bit squishier, so keep that in mind. And then the passive skill 2, Faith's Curse. When Catherine deals damage to a target, there's a chance to double stack of corrode to the target. So having her and Minotaur together would be great because they both double stack, so making the corrode stacks hit even more and harder. So I'm not sure, to be honest with you guys, if she is going to actually make a massive difference. My fear here is the fact that they still, and I mean, my boy C Wild can do this as an endgame player. He can vouch for this. Their main issue still dealing with a lot of burst teams and a lot of shield teams, making it really difficult to shave through that shield and actually make the corrode worthwhile. So she may or may not help. I think personally the Mystifiers are still going to be the bottom rung team at endgame because of that, but don't be mistaken, they may not be the greatest for PvP, but they are absolutely massive powerhouses for PvE bosses, so player versus environment bosses, especially like the guild runs, right? So keep that in mind when you're creating this team. It's not the end of the world if you have Mystifiers. You're going to need them anyways for Celestial Trials, another piece of content that comes out, right? So not the end of the world, all right? So that's the first thing I want to talk about. Second thing I want to talk about is let's discuss what happens when you finish story mode. I think this is going to be a big one for a lot of you, so you guys can prepare for this and understand what to expect, okay? Am I still alone in this place? I am. I need some friends here. So when you complete the mission mode, guys, you're going to actually unlock something called Abyss. And I want to talk about this because I think it's very important that people understand what Abyss is all about and how to prepare for it. So here's what happens. You go to Common Mode. Common Mode ends when you complete floor 28. Okay, when you get to floor 28, you're going to finish the ancient court, and it's going to tell you that you've completely saved the world, blah blah blah, and then you're going to get something that pops up, which is going to be the Abyss. It's going to be like this red evil face that shows up and says you have now been prepared for Abyss mode. Now Abyss mode is very different than regular mission mode, and I'll explain to you guys how to prepare for it and what to expect and what the differences are between the two modes. So when you get to Abyss mode, first off, you're going to notice a few things. You're going to notice your idle rewards are going to increase. You're going to get yourself chances up to get ruins and other things as well too. Now, the main thing that this mode does differently, there's actually two major differences. Number one, if you go to challenge, you will see here, you now are going to have to deploy 2 teams. So this kind of goes back to the whole Mystifier scenario, right? it's not the end of the world, guys, if you have been working on one team and you're now transitioning to a second team, okay? Now, the second team, you're going to want to have as evenly fared out as the first team with a good synergy. So you can see here, most of my team here is comprised of Valianters, and my first team is all Ethereals, right? So I've got my two teams set up, and they're doing fantastic. Now, as you progress through this, the challenge difficulty gets more and more, right? And you really, really want to have this relic in hand. So this relic here is Vulcan's Hammer. And what it does is it increases your damage for all missions. I didn't understand really the purpose of it in the regular missions because I was like, hey, this is really easy. But then I got to Abyss and I realized, holy, this is a huge, huge deal. So make sure, guys, when you're going to do your guild store into the Merchants Guild, if you go to the guild store, you should be focusing on getting this as much as you possibly can. It's going to drive you to get way more power in these modes, and it should be your #1 focus, okay? So that's going to be tip #1. Tip #2, in terms of setting up a second team, make sure you're either going with a burst team, so Ethereals or Valianters, or you're going for Avengers and Mystifiers. If you're going to go for Mystifiers, you definitely want to go with a mixed bag of Avengers and Mystifiers. Don't put all Mystifiers, because the thing is, even though Kuroda is really good for PvE, you still want a little bit of survivability, unless you plan to go for Catherine, and she may be that unit to help you survive. But for me personally, if you're going to go Mystifiers, I would do Avengers half. So if you're a Mystifier main, focus on getting some Avenger units as well to help you survive that load. And then from there, work on a Valianters team or work on an Ethereals team, okay? So another big difference here for this mode versus the other mode is the fact that there is no longer an actual limit for level. You can continue every battle and every stage no matter what level you are. Clearly, the battles get more difficult, and I'll show you guys here. Obviously, we're facing a much more powerful team, but if you have the proper setup, you will be fine. So do not worry about having to focus on getting further levels up. You don't have to worry about that at all. You will be fine as long as you build the proper team and focus on getting your idol up and obviously doing ascensions, etc. Right? So that's the one thing that's a major difference, is level cap is now no longer a priority, no longer an issue in Abyss mode, but things are obviously a lot tougher being a two-man squad. And you guys can see here, the opponents you're fighting are also no joke. Like, they've got really good setups here. Like, they've got Avenger team, they've got a team with Doomsdayers, they've got Celestials here. So everyone here, every opponent here is going to be a challenge. So prepare yourself for that, and remember, this is an idle game. You're going to get stuck. I'm eventually going to get stuck, and we're all going to have to deal with idling for a little while to get through. So that's what Abyss mode is, guys. The main thing to focus on is start working on a second team if you have completed a first team. Transition a little bit. I would suggest in Abyss mode, at least everybody on your team being 9 to 10 stars minimum, and then you guys can progress through that quite a bit. Now I'm at 35-1. I don't know where this ends. I can probably go look at the map, and I'm not sure if there's anything after Abyss mode. I'm assuming there may be something, but maybe a Nightmare mode or something, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'll update you guys with that information as I go through this and I progress through it a little more. All right, guys, this is Payne. Hope you enjoyed the video. This is what you have to look forward to. I'll see you guys on the next one.